Whether you're joining us across Australian Community TV as New Game Plus or Australian Community Radio as Z Games, welcome to the show. We're going to be chatting video games and a whole lot more for the next little bit. My name is Jack. I'm in the RMI TV studio with Cam. Hello.
Hi.
And B. Hello. So coming up, B, later on you're going to be talking Obra Dinn.
Yes.
So that will be coming up later on in the episode. I'm also going to be chatting with James from Super Jump Magazine. That is like a little website, blog situation. Interesting sort of story behind it. So that's coming up a little bit later. But first, Cameron.
Me.
Tell me about what you've been playing.
So I have been jumping into two Who's Done It murder mystery point and click games that recently came out. I kind of dove into one, liked it, dove into the other, liked it even more, and I've now tried to go back to the other one and I'm struggling. So the two I've been playing are a game called Jenny LeClue and Twisted Tower.
Right.
Now these have both come out around similar times and they're that same
Are they
similar
recent
thing.
releases?
Yes, I believe so.
They've come out in the last few months.
They're recent to things like they've just come to Steam. Like Tangle Tower literally just came to Steam.
Okay.
They were part of Apple Arcade, which is where I obviously found them because I have an addiction.
A crippling addiction. Yes.
But they are on PlayStation 4, Xbox, all over the space. You can try them out. But I started with Jenny LeClue. And these are the kind of games where it's like, something has happened, you need to put all the pieces together, figure out the murder mystery. Like, as a kid, I was obsessed with Miss Marple. Like, it's a weird thing to be obsessed with as a kid.
Is Miss Marple Australian? Wait, no.
I think it's a
Agatha
British.
Christie, it's British.
Oh, I have no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah.
I'm whatever.
I don't
I'm
read
American.
books.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Well.
Yeah, it's great.
But I love whodunit. I love
Yeah,
mysteries.
it's
I
so
love
good.
solving them. Ooh, give it to me. But I started with Jenny LeClue, and I was enjoying it. It was fun. And I was like, oh, let's see what else is out there. And I found Tangle Tower. And oh boy.
So are they made by the same developers or?
No, they're different developers.
So it's the same style of game, but from different developers.
Very different developers, which means they've approached it in slightly different ways
Right.
with kind of similar mechanics happening throughout them. The big thing is you've got one of them, I think the main thing that I noticed with one of them, the second one, Tangle Tower, you know, the artwork in it is just so nice. And it's fully voice acted where the other isn't. And I feel like in a point and click, voice acting makes such a big difference.
Because you can kind of get burnt out and maybe like a little bit bored and you're like, I just need some sort of variety.
Exactly.
And if there's no voice acting, it's like
it just
the
becomes
same
white noise
loop
on you.
of music.
Yeah.
It's also this thing where like you hit Tangle Tower, you basically go to this mansion, there's been a murder, you are getting off the boat as you arrive at this mansion, like you hit the ground, you've got to solve this murder. It's go time, straight away. Jenny LeClue, unfortunately, while the artwork is really beautiful, it's not voice acted, and it has like this really long lead in where you're like introduced to the characters and you're introduced to the little town they live in.
Does it do a good job of actually establishing the story, the characters, the context, or is it like does it actually do a bad job of doing that stuff?
It feels padded. And that's a
Right,
bad
okay,
feeling in a
yeah.
game that doesn't have voice acting. It's already feeling a little bit sluggish and slow. The reality is, I went to Twisted Tower and I finished it in a day, not because it's short, but because I couldn't stop playing it.
Right.
I did it all in one sitting, and the voice acting was so interesting, and I love the world, and I'm like, I hope there's a series of these. This is great. I want like Ace Attorney, you got heaps of them. Give me heaps of this pair of detectives. Jenny LeClue, before we're filming, I'm still trying to get through it because I just keep stopping. And then B, you noticed, you were like,
Yeah.
you're not playing Jenny LeClue now, you're playing another game. I'm like, yeah, I needed a break.
So talk to me about the mechanics. You mentioned they share some similarities in mechanics.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. So with Tangle Tower, you go into a room, you hunt through the room, and there's little puzzles to kind of like, oh, I've got this box and I need to do a certain thing to unlock it to find a clue inside. And then you can do deductions using your clues.
Right.
You can be like, wait a second. But, you know, using what I've spoken to this person about, and they give you this really cool kind of statement when you speak to people that has a little map that shows their movements through the mansion and how they were affected. So you have to be like,
That
is
reminds
this all
me
adding
of.
up?
Did you play Sexy Brutale?
Sexy Brutal. Yeah.
That game. I remember you reviewing it in Brisbane. Yeah, yeah.
Did I?
Yeah.
On Zed Games.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's that kind of thing where you have to like look at where people were moving, figure out who was where, and all this kind of stuff, and figure out
is it
what
so
doesn't
you're
match.
jumping around chronologically a little bit?
No, just through their stories.
Okay.
Like, so they're telling you, and you're going like, that doesn't add up. Something's not right here.
Okay.
And the characters are acted so well; they're so interesting and nice, and you like getting to know them. And the voice acting is. There's one like moment where this character who's very like fritzy and ditzy and whatever, she talks about the murder victim, and it just becomes so sincere, so suddenly, and so heavy, and you just go, "Oh,
I gotta take a step back.
and I put it down for a second, and went, "That's some solid voice acting from someone who." She's done a little bit. I went and I looked her up. I immediately jumped on Twitter. I was like, I need to tell her that she's done an amazing job. Follow her. But I'm not getting that from Jenny. With Jenny, there's a bit more like you look at a person and you make a deduction about them. But like the opening part of Jenny LeClue is like you help a woman who's lost her glasses.
Oh, that's noble.
And you
Groundbreaking.
have a man who's like, I bet you can't guess what I had for breakfast. And you're like, okay. I looked at him. I'm like, a donut. And he's like,
oh, because there's like sprinkles on his shirt, kind of thing.
He had like powdered sugar and like
and then you had like
and
a
you
multiple
deduce
choice.
that you know he likes donuts, and so it's like I know he likes donuts, and he has powdered sugar on his moustache. I guess donuts. So it's that kind of thing, and I've finally hit the point where the murder happens, and then you start going through because the other thing Jenny LeClue has going for it is while Tangled Tower is you are the detectives, you're in the mystery.
Yeah.
Jenny LeClue is this weird narrative where it's someone writing a Nancy Drew style book where she's being a character who kind of knows she's in a book but doesn't. So you're also dealing with unraveling this author who doesn't want to put murder in his Nancy Drew book.
It's like super meta.
Yeah. And so he's all like, I don't want to kill anyone in the book. And then it's like, but his publisher's like, you've got to kill someone in the book.
Oh wait, how does that happen in the game? Is that like a separate like scene or
So you'll
something?
be like taken out occasionally for him to like be sitting at his typewriter being like, what
You
am
see
I
the
doing?
storyteller, like, oh, this is how the story
okay.
went.
Yeah, and then sometimes he'll be like, wait, Jenny wouldn't do that. And she would be like, because you have like multiple choice. And she'd be like, wouldn't I? And then she does it. I'm like, what are you doing?
This sounds so bizarre.
Like, just,
Yeah.
just
I
tighten
kind of
it up.
just yeah.
I guess does that save Jenny LeClue to the point where it's actually worth recommending? Because everything else you're saying is like play the other game. Does it save it to the point where you're like, I can justify giving it the time?
Look, I can say if you have to choose between the two,
Yep.
I would choose Tangled Tower.
Right.
But Jenny LeClue is in no way a bad game. I think it suffers from the fact that I played a superior game against it.
That's probably why.
Exactly. I think when it was just Jenny LeClue, I was enjoying it for what it is. If you like whodunit, point and click, and
Adventure games.
adventure game, that kind of thing, great. This
Cool.
might be for you. But if it's between you're sitting there, you've got Steam open, you're like, which whodunit should I do? It's Tangled Tower, hands
100%.
down.
So they're both on Steam?
Both on Steam.
Are they, what
They're
else are they
both on iOS on
Cool.
the arcade.
You're right.
And then Tangled Tower is on Switch. And I think Jenny LeClue is as well. And Jenny LeClue is on PlayStation and Xbox.
Right.
Tangled Tower is not yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't come over because it's actually been received pretty well from its launch.
Cool, good stuff. You're hanging out with Jack, Cam, and B in RMI TV. We'll be back in a little bit talking with James from Superjump Magazine. Welcome back to the show. My name's Jack. I'm hanging out in the RMI TV studio now with James. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. You are the editor of Superjump Magazine.
I am indeed.
This is not a real magazine, though, is it?
No, I just like the name. No, it's a digital magazine / blog. Really, it's a blog.
Right.
Let's call it what it is.
So this came out of your love of gaming magazines. I mean, gaming in general, obviously.
Yeah.
But did you have a particular affinity for gaming magazines as well?
I did. So I'm a little bit. I consider myself a little bit on like the old school side of the spectrum. So like I grew up reading game magazines, especially the really cool Aussie ones that we were making ages ago. That
Quite a while
have
ago.
all pretty much died
Pretty
now,
much
I think.
all of them.
And then I was lucky enough to start writing for some of them. And that was an interesting experience, pretty incredible experience. But then they all died.
Yeah.
And that was kind of when my like gaming adjacent career kind of died as well.
Yeah.
like a lot of folks, I just went back to,
day job.
full-time work, day
Yeah,
job,
yeah.
did other things. But I always had this sort of voice in the back of my head that was saying,
Do something.
Yeah, you need to
Yep.
do something or you'll regret it. And I'm not a programmer.
Right.
I'm not a great artist really at all. I thought, well, what can I do? I need to kind of scratch this itch. And writing was the one thing that I'm reasonably good at.
Right.
Not brilliant, reasonably good.
And editing, of course.
And editing.
Yeah.
And editing's actually, there might be some editors out there that will hate me for saying this, but I actually really enjoy it. If the content and
If
the
the writing
writers are
is
really
good,
great,
yeah.
then it's good fun.
No, I appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, you're not a programmer, you're not an artist. That is one of the main reasons as to why Superjump Magazine is part of Medium.
Yes.
Talk to me about sort of some of the quirks of going about launching a blog, because it as much as it feels very polished as well, because Medium obviously looks pretty slick.
Yep.
The core of it is still the content. What was it like trying to launch a platform as someone who'd worked in like print press to go from that to online? What was it like launching the platform?
Well, I guess I was a little bit influenced by my day job. This is where my day job really came in handy.
Right.
So in my day job, I'm a product manager. So I build software, launch software, do that sort of stuff.
Right, okay.
Again, not a programmer, an
programmer.
artist, product manager.
Yeah.
So the main thing was, I was thinking about doing something. I was trying to come up with all these different names. How am I going to go about this? It's just me and no one else kind of thing.
To start with, yeah.
And I'm thinking, look, I'm taking like the product, it's called the MVP approach, minimum viable product. So in other words, get something out there, start doing something on a regular basis, and then experiment and iterate on it.
Right.
And that's pretty much how it started.
When was that?
That was, I think, 2016.
Right.
And I kind of feel like the first year is almost
Like training wheels on?
kind of like training wheels on, because it was very much, me shouting into the void, probably no one reading but my mum, maybe she...
Maybe,
or she
hopefully,
said, Or she
please.
said she did, yeah. And then it was just a really slow, gradual, I feel like it's like rolling the boulder up the hill really slowly till you get to the top.
And then it's
And then you
all
sort of push it
pick
down
up
over
speed.
the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you hope to anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you've picked up more stuff since then, and I feel like looking at some of the content that is coming out of SJM, it seems like it's much more of a measured approach. It's less reactionary than a lot of games media. Understandably, games media is accused often of being reactionary. What was the sort of mindset there? Was that sort of coming out of your history in magazine writing?
A little bit. I think a lot of it was, my thinking going into this was, what's the kind of content I like to write? What do I really like to read?
Yeah.
And all of the folks who write for Superjump magazine, like I'm their biggest fan.
Right.
So I've gone out and found people whose writing I love and begged them to come
Please
and
come
write
and
for
write
me.
for us,
Please
yeah.
come and write for us. So part of it is that, and part of it is doing it because we enjoy it as much as possible, and not, reacting to deadlines and
Hitting
especially-
embargoes, reacting to news, all of the stuff that you see a lot of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
and not being forced to write about things we're not interested in.
That was a big one, where it was like, if you see us writing about something, it's because we really had a good time with it.
Yep.
Does that mean that there will be sort of long periods of time on the site without writing up, or do you have enough stuff to sort of cover for that as well?
There's always something to talk about.
Right, yeah.
And it can vary between, sometimes it's just a straight out review. Sometimes it's an article. We had one recently that was it was written by an architect.
Oh.
And it was all about how Ubisoft, with their development of Paris in Assassin's Creed Unity, I think it was, can help to rebuild Notre Dame.
Right.
So it's this really kind of interesting angle, not really a review, not really something that's too dependent on a particular deadline,
Yeah.
but really fascinating. And
And that sort of evergreen content seems to be sort of medium speed as well.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, they describe themselves a bit like a library.
Yeah.
So, when you go onto Medium and you start kind of registering your interests in different topics, they try and surface things that are relevant to you. So we really try and make evergreen content as much as we can.
So if people want to know more or to visit the site, the website to go to superjumpmagazine.com
Yep.
is the Medium site. You also have Facebook, Twitter, other social media accounts as well?
At the moment, just Facebook and Twitter.
Cool.
So at Superjump Online on Twitter, you'll get all our updates there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, James.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back in a little bit with more video game goodness. Welcome back to the show. My name is Jack. I'm in the RMO TV studio with Cam. Hello.
Hello.
And B. G'day.
Hi.
B.
Hi.
Return of the Obra Dinn came out like 2 years ago.
No, it came out last year.
A year ago. It's been a while, is the point.
No, it came out this
It's
year.
this year.
Did it,
No,
it
it
only
was
come
this
out
year.
this year?
Yeah,
This
yeah,
year.
I thought it came out ages ago.
We were discussing this
'cause
before.
it was
Lots
in-
of games came out this year that we are freaked out about.
Anthem came out this year.
Yeah.
Resident Evil came out this
Resident
year.
Evil 2.
Because, Lucas Pope was here last year with Obra Dinn, showing off Obra Dinn.
At like PAX or something.
Yeah,
Cool.
PAX,
Right.
yeah. So, I played it because it came out on the Switch.
Ah,
Because
right.
for some reason, I really wanted to play it, but I didn't decide to get it on the Steams.
That's fine. I mean,
That's
like,
fine.
honestly, when you have like little sort of like creative, alternative-y sort of games like that, you kind of want to play them on Switch as well.
Well, the thing is, it's not like Papers, Please. So Lucas Pope did Papers, Please.
Yes.
The last one was, that. And so I think he was developing Obra Dinn for like 3 years, 4 years, something ridiculous
And
like
only
that.
a year of that was crying after finishing Papers, Please. I need to
Yeah,
feed my
basically.
family.
And like,
It's really intense. It's an intense game.
No, I know.
oh,
Oh,
Papers,
okay, cool.
Please?
I was like, you've played
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
But like Obra Dinn, like he's just one of these developers that is really creative on his own, and he doesn't have to work so hard, but he does. So like he just basically did this whole like, okay, so Obra Dinn is, I don't know, Obra Dinn is like, it's a boat thing.
You're on a boat.
It's a boat.
It's a little bit whoddunit.
Yeah, it's very
It is
whodunit.
very
Oh my
whodunit,
god,
that's
that is
right. Yeah,
all
yeah.
of it. So basically, you are a insurance investigator, and you have to go onto this boat and figure out what happened to these people.
Are you traveling back in time?
Yeah, so the thing is, kind of. So the thing is, you also have this, it's called the memento mortem, so remember death. And it's basically this pocket watch that when you go to a corpse, in the gameplay, you'll hear a series of noises or a series of like talking. I don't know what that's called. Dialogue. There we go. So you'll hear dialogue. So like, for instance, it's like the first scene is these people, you hear this commotion and these people are like, "Captain, come out," and the captain's like, "No, you know, go away," and they're like, "No, you have to come out." And then so, but this is all, yeah, thank you. I'm great at voice acting. And then like, but it'll all be done in dialogue. Like you don't see anything, and then it'll be like, bam, and then suddenly you see the scene before you, and the captain is shooting a gun at you, but the scene is frozen. So then you can like turn around and you'll see that he's shot the person behind you. And then it's this whole thing where then you zoom into each of the people, and then you've been given this book, and it's this whole huge book, Jesus. There's like maps of the...
It's so big, man.
It's so big. It's like, it's ridiculous.
Love a big book.
Look, I played 5.5 hours today. I did it.
Whoa.
I did it all today. So, look, okay, so it's this book,
Real
and it's
gamers.
like the map of the ship, the whole portraiture of 60 souls on board, basically. 60 people. So every time you're zooming in on somebody, you'll see like, oh, they've appeared in 14 memories. They've appeared in 2 memories
Right,
so far,
okay.
and all of this stuff. And yeah, basically, it's just like you go into the scene, and then you can kind of explore, and then you only get like a certain amount of time, and then it'll be like, okay, it'll give you like 3 criteria basically. Who is it? How did they die? And like basically who killed them, depending on the circumstances. But you're not going to know. So then you would then have to like kind of like come back later on and explore the scene further. So it's really interesting, especially in later ones where there's 2 plots going on. So it's like, cool, somebody's killed over here. But like in this upper deck, there's this commotion, people are trying to like escape and everything like that. And then you go back and you're like searching and you're like, oh, the lower deck is open. And then there's this whole B movie where this other guy's been stabbed and there's other people like running around. And you're like, oh no, I have to deal
There's
with
so
this.
much information happening.
There's certain ones where I've had to like go back to scenes like multiple times to like get through things, and then it's great because it's not just a people went crazy. It's also very occult as well. And yeah, they just mess with things they weren't supposed to, and the sea is very angry.
Ugh.
So angry.
We haven't yet spoken about what the game looks like, because it looks like something. So
that's the part.
we should clarify, this is a first-person game that you are playing in.
Yes.
As opposed to sort of like the mobile thing, which is not, from what your description was, it wasn't really
Like a
first-person.
side
Oh no, it's like a
kind of
side
thing.
scroll.
Yeah. This is first-person, but it's like you're playing a Game Boy game.
So that was my thing again, where Lucas Pope just went extra and like did his
so
own
extra.
shaders basically, and he's literally trying to mimic old Macintosh. So when you go onto the screen and you pick how you want it to look, you can get a Macintosh screen, so like a green and like dark green.
Oh, you get a
You can get an
choice?
IBM. You can get LCD, where it's literally like a black and white. So there were like these colors that were like orange and black and blue and dark blue and stuff, and like I stuck with the Macintosh. But yeah, it was very specifically, this is an old style game, but there's just so much, but it's in 3D.
But there's so much nuance to it as well. Like the visuals, obviously, are like, they're striking in their own way. But
Yeah.
then like the whole game around that is like so fascinating and so intense to kind of interact with as well.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like from memory, a big part of it was to trigger those feelings of like old text adventures
Yeah.
that you would play on
Right,
those
yeah, yeah.
old
But
kind of
like
games, but take
you're in it.
further.
Yeah. So it's like Myst, but if Myst then had the technology to be even
Myst.
older than that, is basically what it is.
That game messed me up as a kid.
I forgot about that game. Thanks
welcome.
not for reminding me.
It's it's so weird, and like it jumps in time so much. Like the first part that you're doing kind of like goes a little bit like chronologically. So like, okay, this person has been killed, and then you see the next corpse, and you go to that, and okay, so this guy is happening, and then this other guy that was behind is now come down, and you can kind of see like the creeping around. But then later on in the game, they go backwards, and it screws you up even more. So you start with, this explosion or something, and then it's like, oh, hey, there's actually a corpse over here. So then you go over here to this corpse, and you see how that explosion is starting to set up, and then how this other thing is
Jesus.
happening. So then you actually go backward.
Have you seen that picture of that guy with like the screen of like random like snippets, and then it's just red string
Always
tying it
something.
all together? That's exactly what you sound like, and that's kind of what this game sounds
You can
like.
bookmark certain people, so you can jump around to see where their memories are or where they have been in the memories that you've seen so far. And then all it is like logical leaps. Oh, all of these guys are wearing this type of necktie. That must mean they are midshipmen. Oh, these guys are hanging out with each other. Well, this one person was a seaman,
Jesus,
so all these
okay.
other people must be seamen. Like,
This
and
could, I feel like you could go, because you've been playing it for 5 hours today alone.
I
You could
finished
probably
it.
fly off.
I
Oh, you
finished
finished it.
it.
Good.
I finished it.
Is it, the one concern in my mind, because there's a lot of stuff that it's got going for it, is it to the point where it is so intimidating that you kind of, that you think some people might need to just walk away for a little bit to be able to take away,
Yes.
like move away, process, and then come back?
I literally played a couple hours yesterday or a couple days ago.
Yeah.
I got stuck, and then I just started a new save file and just like went
Jeez.
from the beginning again.
But it's
and
definitely worth getting into if you're wanting sort of a narrative-driven adventure
Yes.
that looks different, plays different,
Yes.
sound, everything else is different.
Look, I'm not ashamed to say that once again I used some internet help, but like even so, like when I did get those clues and people by themselves, I was really proud of myself, even with the help. So if you really like those nuances, you really like characters and weirdness, I don't know. Yeah, just play
Do
it. You like Papers,
So
Please? You're gonna like this. I
It's
don't know.
on Switch,
Switch, Steam.
Steam, maybe
I think Xbox One and
maybe
PlayStation
consoles.
4.
Maybe consoles.
I don't know.
Just use your phone. Search it.
I'm pretty. I think like the three big ones like lumped together just
Cool.
recently.
That pretty much wraps it up for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me, guys, in the RMI TV studio.
Thank you for having us.
If you want more New Game Plus or Z Games in your life, you can check out newgameplus.tv, the website, on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, /New Game Plus TV. And if you want more podcasting, New Game Plus has one, but Z Games is a radio show in Brisbane. You can check that out, the website, zedgamesau.net, and all our social media is zgamesau. But like I said, that's pretty much it for this episode. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.